Hi everyone, this is Freddie with Superbike Unlimited, and we want to make a video to kind of give you guys a rundown about Barber Motorsports Park. We haven't been producing a lot of video content recently, which you've probably noticed, and that's been because we've been getting our ZX10RR ready for a pro superbike race with MotoAmerica. We were contacted by a rider and had a kind of a small window to get this thing ready to do some superbike racing. So we did a little test and wound up showing up to the racetrack and had a pretty good first day. If you didn't keep up with any of that, our second day was not as good as our first day. So just a little bit of background. You guys know this motorcycle pretty well, probably part of the reason why we had some issues on Saturday. And this is a bike that has a an extensive superbike build. Part of that build was that it had we had some issues with the stock gearbox. We upgraded that to a Nova billet gearbox, and we were running a Motec M170 ECU with a firmware on it that is not homologated for MotoAmerica superbike use. So we cleared the ECU, not the firmware. It's a big distinction, just the ECU, because the MotoAmerica spec ECU is called an M130, also by Motec. In terms of differences between M170, performance differences, there are none. The biggest difference between the two ECUs is that the M130 has a plastic connector that's rated at something like 100 disconnects. M170 has an Autosport connector, which is easier to waterproof and is rated at 500 or so disconnects. So basically just a little bit more robust, and also tidier, having just one large Autosport connector versus two plastic connectors. So MotoAmerica actually did clear our ECU. We ran that by them, but they were very clear. You have to run the spec firmware. Well, a little bit of an issue there. The spec firmware didn't yet exist and was not going to be ready in time for our race. And in retrospect, I kind of wish we'd put a little more heat on the developers to try to rush them a bit on that, because inevitably what happened is we showed up with a motorcycle that, in terms of technical advantage, had for sure none over the leading teams, and especially those running like a Marelli ECU, but had a firmware that wasn't legal and a gearbox that wasn't legal. Those things didn't really amount to anything in terms of lap time, but we had a really great result, and in the end we wound up having to withdraw and basically exclude those times. So I just want to cover a couple of points. There's a lot of things that we've seen people have been making comments about. One of them is that shame on MotoAmerica and that kind of thing. I don't agree with that. I understand your position, and certainly in the moment I really was hoping that MotoAmerica would have given us some kind of allowance or a penalty of sorts. But at the end of the day, rules are rules, and it's important to remember that I knew that there was a risk of this. And it's 100% on my shoulders. I chose to take that risk, and it's just one of those things. We couldn't get what we needed in time to get the bike ready, and we wanted a race, so I went for it. And I feel the superbike class needs more real superbikes with real riders, and it's one of those things that I'll probably be thinking about it for a long time. It just is what it is. We decided to show up and go, and a lot of people were really positive about it. For what it's worth, most of the teams out there, especially the bigger ones, really wanted us to stay on the grid, but it's just one of those things. Another thing is a lot of people who filed a protest. Well, actually, no one filed an official protest. There were rumors circulating. There was a single member of another team. It was not a team owner or manager. There was a single person affiliated with another team that sort of started the inquiry and was kind of sort of stirring the pot in that regard. So I don't really want to blame another team. The person that a lot of people think is responsible for that, not necessarily the case. I don't know for sure whether or not any team owners had anything to say about it. It's not something I really want to spend a lot of time thinking about. We know who started everything, and you know what, at the end of the day, the stuff was illegal. So it's not something that I think we should really focus on here. So moving on, the next step for us, Motec has really come through. I love those guys, and they've stepped up. They've gotten the firmware finished up. So we're working on that right now, adapting all of our stuff on our other firmware, because there are some differences to fit this new firmware. So the bike will be legal. Well, technically it is legal now, but the bike will be in running order and legal very soon. We got a gearbox. Somebody came through for us on that. We sent that off to have it serviced a bit and freshened up. So in pretty short order, this thing will be back together. Right now, this is the state we're in. As you can see, we're pretty well torn down. And the good thing about this, we're using this as an opportunity to improve some things while we're at it. There's plenty of things that we weren't exploiting that are legal in the superbike class. We'll probably go into that a little bit later, but for sure we're going to make this motorcycle faster. We didn't have a lot of time prior to Barber, so we didn't really want to do that stuff. And now we got a little bit of time before the next round. And you know, we're planning on making the bike better than it ever has been. So I just wanted to give you guys an update. I'm sure a lot of you have had questions. We've been getting contacted a lot, and people have you know, made some comments and had some questions about things. I felt that it was best to simply make a video and address all this stuff. So you know, I have zero resentment towards MotoAmerica for the way this thing has turned out. Again, rules are rules. It wouldn't really be much of a series if they were allowing people to kind of just, you know, Wild West this stuff and show up with things that are not legal, and they just give them a pass. So you got to kind of respect that, and I think that's totally fair. You know, in the moment it hurt a lot. We were doing really well. We had a great QP1, and we had some changes that we were going to introduce to the bike to make it even better. But it's just one of those things. You have to accept it, and you have to learn from it and move forward. For sure, it's been a learning experience for us, I can tell you that. So next, we may make some videos. I don't know how much I really want to say about what we're going to do with the bike. It's all going to be well within the rules, and you can count on the fact that we are going to be scrutinized heavily should we enter another MotoAmerica race. We had really favorable feedback from our rider, which is Andrew Lee. He really liked our motorcycle. He wound up riding another bike throughout the weekend, and he struggled to maintain the same level of performance on that bike that he did on ours, which I thought was, you know, kind of a positive reflection on what we've got going on here. And again, we made some big changes that he never got to try that I think were going to be another step. So, you know, the next step for us, we're trying to get everything sorted out to enter another superbike race. One of the big consequences, that something else I'd just like to touch on in this video, one of the things that really sucked about that weekend, aside from everything that happened, and really one of the things that weighed on me probably heaviest, was the fact that we had sponsors that were involved in this program, and we let those guys down. And you know, to add insult to injury, a lot of those guys flew out to the racetrack, and they're from, you know, we had Franklin Armory there, we had Cool Breeze there, we had Appalachian Electric and Generator there, and you know, it really hurt to kind of let those guys down. So our goal at this point is to not ask those folks for any more money and still try to come up with enough funding to enter another superbike race and represent those guys in a professional way. So that's our goal right now. We're trying to get some money together. As you guys can imagine, it's super expensive doing superbike, and you know, it's one of those things we just need help to get out there and do it properly. So that's one of those things that we're working on right now, and we're going to try to make it up to those guys. So assuming everything comes together the way we're working on it, we could be back out there as soon as Indy. That's the goal right now, and we're going to get the bike and prepare everything under the assumption that we will be there. So I just wanted to kind of let you guys know what the next step is for us. We hope to be at Indy, and Andrew wants to ride the bike again, so that's something we're working on. So anyway, there you have it. That's everything. In regards to updates for this bike, we're going to have a really big one soon. We have some really kick-ass parts that are going to be coming in for the Ducati. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but I'll just say that the bike's going to be taking a really big step in the very near future. Actually, a couple of big steps. So we're going to do things in increments, but each one's going to be, I would say, more of a leap than a step for this bike. So stay tuned. This thing's going to be better than ever in the near future. And hopefully we'll be releasing a pretty cool update soon about doing another Pro Superbike round and being fully legal in the process. So I think that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Sorry, one more thing that I forgot to mention just now that I think is really an important point. Something else that's been kind of a positive outcome of this is that we're hoping that it's going to get Motec a little more closely involved with MotoAmerica as a series. As you guys know, we love Motec technology, and I think that really they're a perfect fit for MotoAmerica, and so we're excited about the fact that they've been kind of pulled into this because they're probably going to develop a bit of a relationship with MotoAmerica, which will be good for, I think, everyone. One of the benefits of that is that it sounds like there's going to be a good possibility of scrutineering being introduced into the firmware, which basically what that is it makes sure that everyone that's running a spec ECU, which MotoAmerica has with the Motec kit, that there are checks that can be done by somebody in tech where they can essentially plug into the motorcycle and they'll have this software that'll more or less just do a run through of the firmware that's on the motorcycle without seeing any kind of tuning data or anything that would be proprietary to the team. It'll simply do a check to make sure that everything that's on that ECU is 100% in compliance with the series. So I think that's actually going to be a really good thing, because it's going to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field, and that that nobody else could potentially have a firmware or an ECU or whatever that's not allowed for the series. So that's just something else I totally forgot to mention in this other video. So I thought it was worth bringing up. I think that's going to be a good thing for everybody. So thanks again. We'll see you next time.